FAIRE's 2026 forecast is here, and here's what it means for you as a brand. We're going to walk through the trends that FAIRE has forecasted, what it means for you, as well as, importantly, I think, some of the trends that FAIRE has missed as well. So if you're a brand and want to make more sales this year, then please do check out this video. So let's jump into it. As ever, FAIRE have done some incredibly beautiful graphics. A shout out to their graphic designer, whoever's done this. I think they highlight them as Maddie Page Design, so shout out Maddie Page. Looks absolutely incredibly gorgeous, and it actually has a lot of substance behind it. So the 4 trends that they have this year is around being well read, fanfare, more is more, and witching hour. I actually think it goes in this direction as well, and I can see why FAIRE have kind of put it in this sequence, but they have left out one key ingredient, I feel, so I'm going to start with that. FAIRE have done a very good job to amalgamate a considerable amount of data points across all different areas and bringing them into their 4, but they have missed one key trend, which is what our brands are referring to as Americana, and is a direct correlation and connection to the 250th anniversary of the United States. And obviously FAIRE is an international platform, but the significant amount of volume that goes through FAIRE is through their US business. And so everything that you guys can be doing as a brand to connect into the 250th will be helpful. Now, regardless of what you think politically, this is a trend that is working quite well for both sides of the aisle. For those that are on one side, maybe they're avoiding the official 250th logo, which you can see on the side. And then for the other side of the aisle, maybe they are using the official logo. Regardless, what is in trend is red, white, and blue, and being patriotic about the country is selling. Now, of course, there'll always be the flip side of that. Depending on what state you're in, is something that you can play with as well. So maybe it's that some people are proud to be American, others are not. Regardless of which way you think, I don't take a stance. All I know is that there will be retailers on both sides of the aisle. So make sure that you've got something for everybody. And I think Americana, and this is probably the reason why FAIRE has avoided it, is because it can be a little bit controversial this year. However, brands at Atlanta and Dallas, the #1 thing that they were pushing and that was resonating in face-to-face meetings with retailers was this Americana trend. So do with that what you please, but I do think FAIRE missed that out. And if you're a brand, I would try and find a way to get it into your store and then out to your retailers as well. Now, the first trend from FAIRE is this trend of being well read and kind of how they're thinking about it. So they are really making this connection into BookTok, might be the other way to describe it. They're seeing a significant amount of searches up in book totes being added to the FAIRE catalog, but also searches around literature. And the real reason why FAIRE is pushing that this year is that they have just done a big release and update on how they're approaching books as a category on FAIRE. So this is kind of the new category that FAIRE is going into from a brand perspective and they're selling to retailers. They have gotten some of the largest publishers in the world on FAIRE with a considerable product catalog. And so with those publishers coming in, FAIRE is going to be pushing books. And with them pushing books, I think they've launched 50 different ways you can categorize books within books, among other changes. Why is this important for you as a brand? Well, the way that we think about this is every year FAIRE brings out new product releases for their platform and their marketplace. And this year they've done a huge update on their book organization. So what we always recommend when this happens is take advantage of it. Anytime there is a newness on FAIRE, it is going to massively increase your sales if you take advantage of it. So I kind of think about that around FAIRE Direct, ads, FAIRE Fulfillment, and any really SEO changes that they've launched across the platform. You have an ability and an opportunity to really take what FAIRE is doing in newness, and because FAIRE is pushing it so hard, 9 times out of 10 they over push it or they overfit. So there's going to be a metric somewhere in FAIRE HQ that is around book uptake, because they've got this new book catalog. They want to see it working and it makes sense. So make sure that you are jumping on that as a brand when you're kind of pushing out your products this year. If you've not got books that make sense, then obviously, for example, what we're doing on some of our home decor brands or some of our food brands is we are actually going into recipe books and we're making recipe books. So do check that out. That's quite a cool idea, especially if you've got a particular type of, seasoning, snacks, etc. And I'll get into them soon, but you can actually push that out as a book. And I think that's going to potentially work well this year. Couple of key areas that I would pull together from at least just the top level analysis that FAIRE has pulled is a huge increase in book totes. We are seeing totes work well for some retailers, but not from a selling perspective, more from just people tend to receive them or find them. So a lot of corporate gifting is finding their way into tote builds. We're finding for some of our clients that do and sell totes. And then bookish products being up 25%. Relatively, it's a decent size increase, but FAIRE is growing probably at a similar amount. So I'm not sure how much I would read into that. I would basically just view this under the guise of what FAIRE's corporate kind of goals are right now. And that's a great thing. They're going to continue to expand into different products and product categories. So just be aware that as they do that, we want to take advantage of it. The second section of FAIRE's forecast is around fanfare. I quite like this one. They speak in particular about Winter Olympics and the World Cup, and again, another beautiful graphic here. But what I like about it is the connection that they've also made to complementary products. So it's not just about getting sales in for clearly World Cup merchandise, Winter Olympics, etc. It's then snacks off the back of that, chips, drinks, and more that are coming. So you've got an opportunity to also make that connection if you are in North America around obviously the North American aspect of this year's World Cup. So do kind of find ways into that. They are highlighting areas around, searches for medals are up 154%, for example. What we like in particular about this is around fanfare. What are you doing on a more regular basis to drive sales? So I think the best way to think about that is around NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS, and more. And then going hyper local to different states and the teams within those states is an incredibly powerful way to do it as well. What we're seeing is that, for example, Patriots and the Seahawks, they are in the Super Bowl this weekend as of time of recording. And after the results came in, we saw really good success of getting in on messages, getting in on emails, and going out to your base of retailers and saying, hey guys, this is what we have that relates to the Seahawks and that relates to the Patriots. You've got a couple of days before you can get them in for the week beforehand, and then kind of making that sale off the back of that. So we also did touch on the connection to fanfare, but also not just sports teams, but then the connection to, for example, Taylor Swift with the Kansas City Chiefs, and then obviously, snacks and everything fun that goes around events. The third section of FAIRE's forecast this year is around more is more. Now, regardless of if you think it suits your design sensibilities, if you prefer minimalism or maximalism, regardless, the most important point that you can consider is what does it mean for your business? So the way that we think about it is whenever a retailer comes into a showroom, a store, a business, and talks to a brand owner, one of the first questions that they're going to ask is, what's new? And that's an easy one for a retailer to ask, and it should be an easy one for you as a brand to answer. What I like about more is more this year is maximalism around patterns is going to be, I think, relatively simple from a product perspective to add newness into products. Regardless of what you're selling, we're talking new patterns, new feelings, new designs. So grab your best sellers, add patterns. We see this as a great way as well around working on increasing your product range size. And we're about to do another video on the science actually behind increasing your range size. The further you increase your range size, the more reviews you have, and the more reviews you have, typically it's a multiple of sales that you're going to have behind that. So more is more. I'm seeing that connection to product catalog size, and then also newness and answering that for your retailer. So that's kind of how we're interpreting it. How are FAIRE talking about it? So they're talking about plaid, polka dots, paisley, and the searches there. So people are thinking about those different types of products. For example, on our sock business, we've recently launched polka dots, long time coming. Different story. I'll talk to you about that another day. Starting to get a bit more of the patterns into products is really starting to work as well. So the last, and sadly what I am showing off as at least according to the numbers, is witching hour. So whilst we think it will be strong for some, we don't think it'll be strong for all. Brands that do have connection already to the spiritual, to the soulful, will probably already be connected into this. In particular around apothecaries, you'll be able to kind of make that connection quite easily. For those brands that aren't, what we are saying is compete, but don't overly invest. So we're not seeing great success from a continued growth into this space if you're not already there. But if you've got a product that's easily customizable and you can kind of bring in this witching hour, we are seeing a little bit of success there. But it really does come back to our previous point around continuing to grow the product catalog. Thanks everyone for watching the video. If you've liked it, please like, subscribe, follow for more. If you are a business owner and you know that you need to do this and it's something that's been important for you for a while, but it's never become urgent, then I'd like you guys to please reach out. We see this time and time again that business owners need to focus on what they are great at, which is 9 times out of 10, making new products and then finding experts to sell it. And we are the experts on FAIRE. So if that sounds like you and you're sitting there being like, oh, I know I need to message everybody. I know I should be sending weekly emails. I know I should be using all 60 characters in my product title, 3,000 in my product description, and you haven't had a chance yet to do that, I don't blame you. There are a lot of things to do running a business, and that's why when we were going through and making Bearkind our own business, we did use experts. And so if you need the expert on FAIRE or even just want to focus on other areas in your business, then please do consider reaching out and contacting us. And of course, I'd love to have a conversation with you. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.